Hi, I'm Brian Otten. I'm the marketing director at the Greater Wausau Chamber of Commerce, and I'm happy to be joined this afternoon by Ken Moberg, who is a big part of the Never Forgotten Honor Flight, another one of the finalists for our 2023 Small Business of the Year Awards. Never Forgotten Honor Flight is a finalist in the charitable nonprofit category, and this is the 13th of 13 interviews that I've done with the finalists over the last couple of days. And excited to talk, Ken, about this organization.
Hey, Brian. Good to be here. Thanks.
So it's all right. Ken, let me fill me in a little bit. Tell me about yourself and about your role with Never Forgotten Honor Flight and a little bit about the organization itself.
Sure. I've been a pastor in Wausau for a long time. We came and planted Highland Community Church in 1985, and so we moved to the community then, been there ever since. I am one of only a couple of veterans who are pastors. And so Sid Bolden and I used to do stuff on behalf of veterans. And so when the Never Forgotten Honor Flight was born in 2009, some of the guys who were instrumental in founding it were members of the Rotary Clubs of Wausau, and I was one as well. And so I was asked to give the invocation at the first pre-flight dinner, and we just got hooked. My wife and I flew as guardians on mission number 2, and began volunteering at the airport right after that. And so about 8 years ago, I guess, I was invited to join the board of the Honor Flight, and I was the vice president of logistics. And then this past year, Mike Thompson, our co-founder with Jim Campbell, retired from the board, and I was named president. So let me tell you a little bit more about the Honor Flight itself. Mike Thompson and Jim Campbell independently discovered the Greater Honor Flight organization in 2009 and put their heads together to talk about planting one here, having a hub in Wausau. And they did that, and we flew our first mission in April of 2010. At that time, World War II was about 65 years in the rearview mirror, and we were losing World War II veterans at the rate of about 1,000 a day. The World War II Memorial had been built in Washington, D.C. in 2001. And so the Honor Flight has really worked at getting World War II veterans to see their memorial. We've all but exhausted the supply of World War II veterans now. A number of years ago, we started flying Korean War veterans who are only really 5 years younger than the World War II veterans. And then we opened it up to Vietnam veterans. So the bulk of what we do right now is we fly veterans of all eras up to the end of the Vietnam era to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials built in their honor. All of those veterans, no matter where or how they served, responded to the call of duty. They all signed the same blank check that says, I will pay any amount up to and including my own life to defend our country's freedoms. And so we want to give them the honor that they deserve. Ours is an all-volunteer organization. We have 240 volunteers who give of their time and effort to contribute to what Jeff Tayland has called the trip of a lifetime. And that attribute has stuck. And it's something that all of our volunteers consider very worthwhile. When someone who's 95 years old tells you that he's just experienced the best day of his life, you know you've done something really worthwhile. And so we flew the first time in April of 2010, and since then, 3,978 veterans have flown with us to Washington, D.C. to experience their memorials. That has been 42 flights then. And we'll fly 213 more veterans this spring. We'll have a flight this month about a week and a half from now, and we'll have one in May as well. We fly for a year, 2 in the spring, 2 in the fall. And our waiting list now has 787 veterans on it, and more sign up all the time. We consider it a huge victory when veterans start talking about their experiences with their families. Many of them just came back and just stuffed their experiences. And this trip tends to really get them talking about it, and it's been really therapeutic for them. We spend over $100,000 now on each flight, and we've had 4,834 individual donors step up to help fund that, and 145 community organizations do fundraisers for us. The Never Forgotten Honor Flight doesn't do any fundraisers of its own, but organizations throughout our 13 counties that we serve have done fundraisers for us. And it's been gratifying to see community organizations step up and help to fund this. We have over 9,000 Facebook friends who follow us as well. We've had a lot of wonderful gifts in kind, and I would hesitate to mention who they are because I might leave somebody out. But man, some amazing gifts in kind that have made this thing possible as well. And again, we have no paid staff. Our volunteers all work for free, and our board does as well. It's a working board, not just a policy board. And so each board member has a vital function in the organization, from marketing to operations, logistics, finance, medical, etc. Each of our veterans gets a guardian. Normally, a guardian will accompany 2 veterans. Guardians pay $500 each for the privilege of working really hard for us, one very long day, and making sure that the veterans in their care experience as much as they possibly can. And guardians have a 2-hour training before each flight. And after the guardian training, we unite guardians with veterans in our USO club. And then we bring them into a pre-flight dinner with a stage show and an honor guard and a speaker. And we just start the honor rolling then. They get to stay overnight for free. All of this is free to the veterans. And so very early Monday morning, we get them out of bed and to the airport. And then we do the whole trip in a single day. We generally take off about 6:30 a.m. from Seaway, get home about 10 o'clock at night. And the community turns out in a wonderful way to welcome our veterans home. It's a wonderful thing. We have a welcome home band that plays, and people show up with signs, placards, and a lot of cheers for our veterans. So it really is the trip of a lifetime, and they really feel the honor that they deserve.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. And I don't have a good excuse, because I've heard from I don't know how many people how powerful the experience of being out at CWA. I believe for the return, how powerful that is. I was lucky enough. I've got a son who's a fireman in Maryland, and we happened to be visiting him, and we were at the airport in Baltimore, and there was an honor flight from someplace else. I'm not exactly sure where they were from, but they were, I think, on their way into Washington D.C., and they had at least in Maryland, I guess the thing there is they had a bell ringer, that sort of announced their arrival, and then everybody stood up in the concourse and cheered for them, and it was an emotional thing. And these weren't local individuals, but they were all veterans, and it was a moving thing for me and my family to witness while we were there. So I can only imagine how powerful it is locally here at CWA for something similar. But Never Forgotten Honor Flight, here's the other connection. So with my son, who's a firefighter in Washington, D.C. I had a conversation a few weeks ago with Jim about this. Do you need help on the ground, in D.C. When you land? And my son's in the process of getting his EMT certification and things like that. And so, Jim, opened that door in my head, and I've had conversations with my son about that. Because I think he'd enjoy it. But yeah, I guess the bottom line is there's a lot of ways for the average person to be involved with your organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the turnout is just amazing. We get up to 2,000 people coming for the welcome home at night when we get back to Seaway.
I got to put it on my list. I got to be there one of these times. Well, anything else you'd like to add about the organization? You did an excellent job of sort of, I think, telling the story of the Never Forgotten Honor Flight. But anything else that you wanted to sort of address?
The two co-founders, Mike Thompson, Jim Campbell, have basically been working full time on this thing since it started, and all without pay. I'm honored to step in and help out, but man, those two guys really deserve special recognition.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of interviewing both of them. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago now. We did a series of interviews with different chamber members, and they came in and had a good conversation. But I agree. They're very devoted individuals. So, well, I thank you for the time, Ken. Look forward to meeting you in person next week. And I'll remind everyone who's watching out there that the Small Business of the Year Awards will be held next week on Thursday, April 13th at the Hilton Garden Inn in Rib Mountain. It's a late afternoon program, and we've got talent from WAOW who will serve as the MCs. I got a sneak peek at the sort of the production elements that are going into the awards show, because we do try to really kind of make it like a big time awards show, and they look great, and it's going to be a great event. So I'm looking forward to that. It's part of our business month programming. We had an advocacy program yesterday, and later on in the month, on Thursday, April 20th, will be the Business Expo. And if you're out there watching and you haven't ever attended the Business Expo, I encourage you to drop by. It'll be open to the public for a portion of the day. All it costs to get in is a business card, and if you don't have a business card, it's $10. So, but we have over 270 booth spaces filled. It's just a great opportunity to, just like the Small Business of the Year Awards, to celebrate local business. And when we say business, we do include charitable and nonprofit organizations. Their missions are different than a typical business, but they still have to follow a lot of the same principles as a business needs to follow in order to be successful. So that's part of the reason why we recognize them at the Small Business of the Year Awards. That'll do it for today. This is the last of as I mentioned earlier, this is the last of the finalist interviews. You can watch all of them on wausauchamber.com or on the Chamber's Facebook page or on the Chamber's YouTube channel. Thank you for viewing. And Ken, thanks for the time.
Great. Thanks for having me.